Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome to another edition of Football Theory. I am lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, joined by fellow football theorist from inside Texas, but also he's the author of America's War Game on Substack. You know the man, the myth, and the legend. And he's also a lifetime Longhorn like myself. Ian Boyd, what's going on, Ian? How you doing, brother?
Going pretty good. Uh, just almost had a long winter's nap just now. So,
Hey, trust me, I don't have as many kids as you do, but man, I've never valued naps as much as I do now as a new parent. It's amazing. I always thought people, I was like, man, I don't need naps. I was never a nap person, never in my life. I've never been a nap guy. I just always find something else to do. I'll relax and kick it, but no naps. Oh, at 40, in my 40s, I become a nap guy. That's amazing. It's all because of the kids, man. They used to wear me out.
is your wife taking any pictures yet of you asleep with the baby on you or something?
I already sent them to mom and dad. David, that was like a week or so ago. Yeah, passed out on the couch with the baby. Yep, already done that. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a regular occurrence now.
Yeah.
So now, but you know what? My dad used to do it all the time, and I'd make fun of my dad. And now, full circle, baby. Now I know. Now I get it. Now I get it. Now I get it. All right, let's get right to it. We're not wasting any time here. First of all, before we get into Texas, Oklahoma State, and we're going to do a heavy review, and we're going to do a sneak peek, just a little small sneak peek ahead. We got plenty of time till Texas plays Washington in the Sugar Bowl, so we'll get into that. But before we do, I want to ask you about Texas selection into the college football playoff. Did you have any doubt at all? How were you feeling? Were you paranoid about it leading up to it after Oklahoma State? I want to know how you felt before and after the Big 12 title game about Texas prospects for the playoff.
I think before I was optimistic, but you still had to see how things shook out. I figured Texas had a few paths, and the one that seemed most likely to me was Florida State losing with their third string quarterback, right?
Which didn't happen. Yeah.
Nothing. Although even then, I wondered. I was like, are they really going to put Florida State in with no quarterback over
No.
a Texas or over another school? Um, After the game, felt very confident. You could just tell on all the channels, all the shows, everyone was like,
Yes.
"That team's got to be in."
Yep.
Um, and in my opinion, the committee usually makes, like I always tell people when the weekly rankings come out, I'm like, guys, this is just to rile you up and hold your attention.
Get the conversation going. Yeah.
Get the conversation. It does not matter. And they're like, but Ohio State is ahead of Texas. How will Texas jump over Ohio State? Well, they will. Just wait. And like Sunday morning, I woke up early for church. I was taking a shower and I was thinking about it. And I was like, okay, the committee has got to go Michigan, Washington, Texas, Alabama. It's just, that's the way it's got to work.
Yeah.
Because you can't leave out the SEC. Like that would have a bigger asterisk on the title than if you had if leaving out Florida State. If you leave out Florida State, it's like, well, that sucks. What about their season? But no one's going to say, well, we don't know who would have won because Florida State didn't get to play, right?
Nobody's going to say that.
Nobody's going to say that.
Nobody's going to say that.
And if you put Alabama in, you have to put Texas in because you can't just completely disregard the regular season.
Yeah, they open the door if they get in, they open the door for Texas. Like their only losses to Texas, you got to respect the head-to-head. I think the committee got it right. I do feel bad for Florida State. It does suck that it's a terrible atrocity that an undefeated team stays out. But if you're talking about the most entertaining product in the four best teams, I think they got it right about the four best teams.
Let's say this about Florida State, okay? They've been coasting into the playoffs over in the weak ACC for years. Okay,
that's
shoes
fair.
on the other foot now. It was great being an SEC team in an SEC light conference. Now it's not so great. Oh well. There's no sympathy here for me. They've had so many chances that others, like how many times would Auburn have been in the playoffs if they could have played in the ACC? How many times could Ole Miss have made it one year? How many times would LSU be in there? You know, just like I don't want to hear it from Florida State.
That's fair.
I have no sympathy. There are no tears from Ian for Free Shoes University.
Well, and next year, ain't nobody's have to worry about it. Like next year, it'll be a moot point. Like
Yeah,
it's not even a topic next year. So no, I'm with you. I don't feel bad for Florida State because this is the way style points. Unfortunately, we were talking about this with Texas prior to them blowing out Tech and blowing out Oklahoma State. The style points do matter. You see that now because you're right. The national narrative shifted. It wasn't even about Texas making it in over Florida State after they blew out Oklahoma State. It was about Alabama making it in over Florida State because everybody said, "Oh no, Texas is definitely one of the four best teams." They're the way they've looked the last 2 weeks. That's a style points thing. That's winning in a dominant fashion, and I think that it definitely helped shift the narrative. I think Texas would have made it in regardless, but it helped shift the narrative that Texas was definitely one of the four best teams. So give it up for Sark.
I'm looking at 7.89 million people watched the Big 12 championship game. That's a lot of people.
A lot of people.
So I do think that those style points ended up really mattering.
I agree.
I'm trying to look at what they were last year.
I want to say this year are the four most the highest rated Big 12 games. Texas is 3 out of the 4. The only other one was the TCU Colorado game, which makes sense. The Dion primetime one.
I'm seeing 9.4 million for Kansas State versus TCU.
Yeah, because of the college football playoff kind of stuff. Yeah, that's a good point. That one may have had more eyeballs because of storylines. Everybody knew Texas was going to blow out Oklahoma State and beat them. K-State, remember, that was a lot of people were picking K-State in that game, which they did. So that's interesting. All right, let's talk about this Texas-Oklahoma State game. I want to start with the defense, and then we'll make our way to the offense because I'm not sure which one was more impressive. I mean, that's how dominant of a performance it was from Texas. But the defense held what is likely going to be the Doak Walker Award winner, Ollie Gordon, to 34 yards total. 34 yards. Texas had 33 first downs on offense. They almost had as many first downs on offense as Ollie Gordon had rushing yards. He threw that temper tantrum early on in the game. I think it was after like the first few drives. He's, seen throwing his helmet, losing it. And I think, honestly, he just saw what was on the horizon. I think he's a high-level player that figured out, I'm not going to be able to run the ball against this damn team. I'm the best running back in the country, and I'm not going to sniff any daylight versus Texas. Sidebar, I got a whole new because that was a hell of a performance he had against Texas, considering now what they've done to every other good running back. But tip of the hat to the Texas rush defense once again. I think, Ian, they're so dominant and they're such an elite rush defense that's not even the biggest storyline of the game, holding the best running back in college football to 34 yards because it's expected from them at this point. Yeah.
It was kind of the feather in the cap on the season for the defense, right? And Tavondre Sweat what is the trophy he's up for? The Outland.
Yep, and he's up for the Outland.
Apparently, Kirk Bowles is on that committee, so he's probably in good shape there. And the rush defense this season was all time. And statistically, especially with like where it was compared to how every other Big 12 defense was ranked. Like there may have been some other Texas defenses that ranked similar numbers in rush defense, but I don't think they were like laps ahead of every other defense in the league like they were this year.
Good point.
Like back when they had Casey Hampton and Sean Rogers, and I feel like 2007 when everyone hated the defense, they actually had really good rush defensive numbers. I
remember that.
Yeah. Frank Ocam and Derek Lokey, but they just gave up all these passes. Kind of like this year, actually, only much worse. So that was a great capstone to the season.
It was.
I don't know if maybe if they play Michigan in the final, or if they play maybe Alabama. they could maybe put even more of a all-time,
Yeah,
insignia on the season of run defense. But that was, I mean, if they just wrap it up like that, that's going to be pretty good.
I'm with you. And one of the things that I'm seeing from the Texas defense more, and you've probably noticed it too the last 2 weeks, they're playing more press on the field side. They've been playing press on the boundary. That's just what they do with Ryan Watts. But now they're playing press on the field side a lot more. They've played press on the field and the boundary in the last 2 games against Tech. I'm going to say more than they've ever played it. And against Tech, I mean, it was the best pass defense that we've seen all season. Held, I think, Barry more than like 2.4 yards per attempt, and they were spectacular. That was the best that we've seen the Texas secondary play all season long. Now, maybe it was because of the competition, or maybe it's because they're getting better and better. Against Oklahoma State, though, Oklahoma State had an adjustment ready for the bump and run coverage. And essentially their adjustment was, we're going to throw it deep. Y'all going to press, and we're going to throw it deep, and we're going to use double moves, out and ups, hitch and goes, stalk, block, and go. And the truth is, it actually worked. Now, it wasn't enough for them to put together sustained drives consistently against Texas. But their adjustment did show that if Texas is going to play press like that, and this kind of gets us a foreshadowing Washington a little bit, if you're going to play press, teams are going to take you over the top. Oklahoma State's not a great passing team, even though they throw the ball out. They're not a great deep passing team. Against Washington, if they play press like that, and I think they will have to situationally, Washington's going to have their opportunities. Think of it the same way Texas does. When Texas sees Xavier Worthy or A.D. Mitchell with a guy playing press man on the outside, what do? They take it to the top. They take them over the top. I think Texas is going to see the same thing. Oklahoma State proved that, Ian.
Yeah, there was at one point, I mean, they started taking some shots pretty early, right?
They did. Yep. Like first drive.
They missed the first one, and Gundy wanted the PI. And they tried some on, they got bailed out. They took a wheel shot against Jade Barron. And I think kind of got bailed out by an underthrow. I hate that so much. I'd love to hear you talk about that sometime. How you're like,
it happens a lot too.
You're trailing the receiver, and they like stop for the ball, and you run into them just before the ball arrives.
Yeah,
it's tough.
It's cheap. It's cheap.
You're a little bit beat, but you don't have to be beat that much for that to happen.
No. A savvy wide receiver can get you on it. If you just throw it, if the timing of the ball is right, you time it out right. A really good wide receiver, if they stack you, mean get on top of the defensive back a little bit, you really can do it out to almost any DB. And you can make it look really bad. They like run into your back, and it's like, you know what I mean? It's all about how theatrical you can make it. But if you're a savvy wide receiver, I'm with you. It can happen. Because I would say half the time when a DB is defending a deep ball, they're in chase mode. They're out of phase. So you can pretty much do that a lot. And you're right. They knew they were going to get some cheap ones. That's why Gundy was so upset. He was so upset after they didn't get the first one, because he's like, dude, we basically baked that into the game plan. We're going to get some of these PIs, man. And they didn't give it to him. And he was pissed. Those were cheap, basically.
Another no sympathy moment for me, and because they mauled Oklahoma's receivers in their Bedlam win. And they did not get any calls. Oklahoma didn't get any.
That Drake Stoops one. Oh,
there's a couple other ones too. And there was like one where the Oklahoma guy was like in phase and got like pushed and collided. And then they called it on Oklahoma. And Brent Venables lost his mind and got another flag. So no sympathy for them either. But they had a little bit of success. Their guy, Rashad Owens, was really good with the ball in the air.
Yep.
Brennan Presley, they actually targeted Presley on a lot of their deep shots. They'd have him like run a wheel or something.
They ran out and up with him in the wheel rhythm.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
And they hit some, but those were on Jade Barron. So it was not like they just weren't really open.
Yeah.
The only one that it really felt like they actually beat Texas legit was to, I think, Leon Johnson on Terrence Brooks. And he got a step on him on the post.
Yes, and he missed him.
And he overthrew, Alan Bowman
Missed.
overthrew. And then he
Yeah.
was about as angry with himself as Gundy had been at the officials.
Yeah. I remember that one. And you're right. Texas was playing like a cloud coverage at times where the DB would basically kind of be in a playing cover 2 or in flat defender. It happened twice. Toward the end of the game, they got it deep in like a 40-some yard shot where they basically the quarterback puts it right in between the safety and the corner. And then it happened again when they went formation into the boundary. And remember, that always pushed Jahdae Barron as this like high field safety when they go formation to the boundary because they don't like to travel Jahdae that way. And they went, I think it was Terrence Brooks. It was the same thing. He was basically a deep cover 2 safety. And they were playing a cloud, some of a cloud coverage, and they put it right in between them. And
was that another guy, or was that the one that they hit?
That was the one they hit. That was the one they hit. Yeah, that was the one they hit on. So you're right, because Texas, in terms of playing straight up and getting beat deep, didn't happen a ton. And it just on those out and ups and the stalk block and go. You know, they basically they built a game plan to attack Jahdae Barron. Was that the way they broke Tennessee? Am I tripping on that? Didn't they build a game plan to attack Jahdae?
Yeah, but I think that was like that. I think that was like, if Brennan Presley doesn't go off, we have no chance.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was. I don't think they were like, who do we attack? Who's our guy? There he is, Jahdae Barron. I don't think that's how they were thinking. I think they were thinking like, these receivers run 4.7, 4.8. They're not going to get over the top.
That's true.
Inside, we're going against Devondre Sweat. Process of elimination. Where do we even try to attack? Let's have to do what we can with Presley. I think that's how they calculated it.
It's got to be that, because I'm like, they can't be building a game plan just to attack Jahdae, but they had success. That's why I was like, that's weird. I went back and rewatched it, but I think you're right. I think they're like, hey, he's gonna be in the slot. That's our best shot to make plays, to get explosive plays. We can't ignore that guy just because Jahdae's there. We're going after him, and that's why they went formation in the boundary a lot, though. And they actually didn't even have to deal with Jahdae. Put him in no man's land.
And they scored the touchdown on Hill and Jaron Thompson.
Yes.
And they were playing a little bit off, and they had him just like run the quick stop into the soft spot of zone, and just like as soon as he turns around, the ball is there.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was part of their game plan too. No, you're right. I'm glad you brought that up. That's definitely was it. They're not attacking Jahdae, but that was actually Jahdae probably his worst game as a defender. It's because of the way things kind of worked out. I honestly think that if you're Jahdae, you should take it as a compliment. In order to beat you, teams need to go double moves. They got to go stalk, block, and go. They got to do some really obtuse things. They cannot just beat you with just consistent play because you are too fundamentally sound. So they got to make your keys work against you. Out and up, hitch and go, stuff like that. That'll work against Jahdae because he's so consistent in his technique and his fundamentals that basically counter keys work against him, and they work. That's kind of what's worked against Jahdae right now.
Even that, I can't remember the numbers, but they only averaged like, I want to say like 6.5 yards per target on Presley. They had like a lot of incompletes. Like Barron broke up a slant or two.
Yep, he did.
So even though like they got some plays on Barron and some plays with Presley in general, they were not living well doing that.
Yeah. No, it was. I'm with you on that. It seemed like everything was coming hard. Even the shots they were taking downfield, they weren't consistent enough for them to put together any drives. They were never really a threat. I would say, to the Texas defense. But I will throw out there that I did count 8 deep shots that they took 20 yards or more down the field, because I've been kind of tracking that because that's what Washington does really well. And they had the one PI. They had one, you talked about it, the open receiver they missed. They probably should have got another PI call with the first deep shot they took. They did not get. And Gundy was upset about, and they connected on 3 of them. So if you start looking at it, they should have got another PI. They didn't know one incompletion. One was the quarterback missed it. The success rate is rising on that one. That there's no doubt, and we'll get into it later, my biggest fear factor is Texas defending vertical shots against Washington. If they can defend the vertical shots and keep them at a minimum, Texas is going to win that game. But if Washington goes off in that deep ball, 20 yards or more down the field, and they get a lot of them, especially with Derek Williams missing the first half, things could get interesting. Way too interesting down the stretch.
I think last year Penix threw for like 5.8 yards per attempt on Texas.
Yeah, you're right. They didn't connect on a lot of deep shots last year.
Whatever they did last year, we'll look back at it, was
you know what?
No, they ran the ball effectively. Washington did.
Over 150.
And I think they were good on third down. I bet you if we look back, I bet they were.
I want to say they were 10 of 15. I want to say, Ian, actually.
Yeah, I would not surprise. Yeah. They had a couple drives where they were just, DeBoer was in his bag, or Grubb or whoever, and they were just marching down the field.
Now you're right about that, because I was worried. I will say that I was worried about the deep ball last year, and that wasn't what beat them last year. That wasn't what killed them last year. They completed, I think, a couple of them, but that's not what beat them. It was the running game, because they ran for 158, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see if I get that number right. Yes, 158, 5.6 yards per carry, and on third down, money downs, they were 11 of 20 on third down, 2 of 3 on fourth down. So essentially 13 of 23 on money downs, period. So you were right, brother. They just kept converting. They didn't get a deep shot. They kept moving the chains. Yep. He was 5.2 yards per pass. So
that was like you remember when Brady faced the Seahawks in the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Brady's day was something like, it was like 5 or 6 yards an attempt. And it was like these numbers where you'd be like, oh, the Patriots must have got destroyed. It was like, nope. Because it was literally every pass was 5 yards. It was like,
yeah.
I can't remember the running back they had, like James White or somebody.
I think you're right.
Julian Edelman on a flat, James White on a flat, over and over and over and over again in the soft spots of the Seahawk Legion of Boom zone. All the way down the field, Brady could do that. Penix has got he's not Brady, but he's one of those guys that could actually probably beat you a little bit, throwing for a low yard per attempt, because he can be that consistent.
I mean, they are top 10 in the country in third down, so they convert right third down. And the only pass they throw more than the deep ball is 0 to 9 yards, which is essentially kind of their quick game. So there are times when they decide, hell, man, we're not going to run the ball, but that's extension of our running game. We're just going to get rid of the football. And I think that's what they did against Texas. So you're right about that, brother. That's good stuff. Okay, anything else on the defensive side of the ball before we flip to the offensive side of the ball? Anything else intrigued you about Texas defensive performance versus Oklahoma State?
That Derek Williams call was trash. I think me and you were both on the watch list when it happened.
Yeah.
Like,
that's it. It was bad because it's not the spirit of the rule. The spirit of the rule is when players are trying to use basically the crown of their helmet, or use their helmet as a weapon. All right. And he was not doing that. He literally was just trying to block a guy. It was a special teams play.
Yeah.
Was it a special teams play, right? Yeah. He was trying to block a guy, and his head grazed the other guy's head. By the letter of the law, yes, it is targeting, because that's how the way the rule is stated. But the spirit of the rule, that's not the spirit of the rule, man. That's not the spirit of the rule at all.
It felt like a have fun in the playoff. Right?
That's pretty good. Is that Big 12 guy? Big 12 guy?
It's the.
I love it. Obviously, man, you might be right. Hey, a lot of people are upset that Sark didn't win Coach of the Year and Gundy won it. You know what I mean? And they think that was kind of the Big 12 saying, hey, he's our Coach of the Year. You're not a coach here anymore, so get the hell out of the conference, man. So
Sark's going to get the bag. That'll be his trophy.
Damn right. He's still up for National Coach of the Years. I should support Gundy winning Coach of the Year in the conference, because Sark was expected to win the conference. So the conference-wise, that's no surprise. I think Gundy was picked to finish like 6th or 7th. But nationally, Sark should probably be up to win Coach of the Year nationally because he's shocking the national college football fans because nobody really expected him to make the playoff this year or beat Bama. That's a national thing. Conference-wise, Gundy's got a good argument.
He also lost the Red River Shootout, which is still unforgivable. So,
man, one day, hey, you know what? And they almost won. Oh, can we get to this real quick? Speaking of offense, this is a perfect segue. Mike Gundy said after the game, he said the Texas team was better live on the field than they were on film. He said that. And I thought to myself, man, I've watched Texas on film. They look pretty damn good. On film, sometimes they look better on film than they actually do on the field to me when I see them live. Because on film, Sark and all his cheat codes and the force multiply. You start thinking about all the matchup and disadvantages and everything. And I think I know what Gundy was talking about, Ian. I think I know. He was talking about red zone offense. Texas was 5 of 5 in red zone offense versus Oklahoma State. I think much like he probably baked into his game plan, we're going to get some PI calls, some gimme calls. They're going to keep our drives alive. I bet he baked into the game plan. They're going to screw up some red zone offense. They're going to settle for some field goals. They'll give us a chance to stay in the game because they're going to screw up red zone offense like they do every week. Even versus Tech, where they blew out Tech, every phase scored. They still look like Benny Hill music should have been playing in the red zone. Make penalties, fumbling the ball. That's just Texas. This game, 5 of 5 in the red zone. I think Mike Gundy thought to himself, well, if they're going to be that good in the red zone, we wasn't going to ever beat them anyway. We had no shot. Your only shot to beat Texas really is that they're going to screw up in the red zone somehow. It's probably the only thing that's keeping them from being the best team in the country. That's why they lost the Oklahoma game. Man, if Texas is going to be good in the red zone, Ian, they're going to win the national title.
True.
Right?
You're right.
Seriously.
You're right. I wondered, you're probably right. I wondered if what he meant by that was that Texas had so many guys playing that game that were running away from Oklahoma State's dudes.
Speed.
It'd be like check down to Jaden Blue. He puts his foot in the ground. He's running away from somebody. Worthy, obviously. Whittington was clowning people in the first half.
Yep. JT screens running away from him.
Yeah, JT Sanders, man, he looked healthy, right? They just had so many guys that were so fast. There's a couple plays where like Derek Williams made a tackle on counter in the alley from the wrong hash mark.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that.
Yep. No, you could be right about that. That's because Texas you said that on in-game live watch, and you were right. Texas looked way faster. Way faster.
Yeah. I noticed on rewatch that Oklahoma State would always bail one of their safeties deep to like Prosper before the snap on every play. Did you see that?
Yeah. I think just fearful.
Send him out there to cool in the Prosper Lagoon and that Texas doesn't score. And just to your point, right? 5 of 5 in the red zone. I got nervous early in the game that Texas kept getting tackled in the red zone. And I was like, well, going to be hard to maximize this drive. And then Sark would dial something up and they'd score. And it was like, oh, this game's over.
I agree. Yeah, man. It was impressive. I'm not gonna lie. Like I got to go back and kind of check out. I thought they in the red zone. I think they were focused more on players instead of plays. I mean, you had the Tavondre Sweat play. You had I don't know if the flea flicker was actually in the red zone, maybe like the 25 or something like that. The AD Mitchell play was really good because it kind of isolated him out there. I just thought, I don't know, maybe I'm just reaching there, but I thought it was interesting that they focused on a lot of plays in the red zone, players in the red zone this time, and not necessarily the plays. I thought early on, and I went and tracked it, first 24 plays for Texas. And Texas, what scored on that first, 5 offensive drives or something like that? Was it first? I don't know if they were stopped in the first 5 drives offensively. It was something like that, man. I'll go look at it. But
I think you're right. I don't think they got stopped until that third quarter drive where they ate up half the quarter.
It's unbelievable. I looked at the start because we always pay attention to the script. And I was just looking at the start of the game for Texas. So I went a little bit past script. Say the first 24 plays is what I went and looked at. Yeah, Texas did score their first 3, 4. They had the interception. Boom. That's what broke up the scoring streak. The pick. The pick broke up the scoring streak. Yeah. Then they scored right after that. So basically scored on 5 out of their first 6 drives. There you go. So they had the pick and the missed field goal is basically what kept. There was only 2 drives they did not score in the first half. But the first 24 plays, something I noticed, Sark loves 11 personnel. He runs 11, 1 back, 1 tight end, probably half the time. He went a lot of power sets, power personnel, 12 and 21. I saw him in 12 or 21 personnel. I believe I have him clocked at 16 of the first 24 plays. That's never really the case for Sark. He usually is the guy that's going to go with 12 and 11. He'll stick with more of the spread personnel groupings early on. I think he was purposefully, and we've talked about this on the show. I'd always give you my little theme: present power personnel packages and pivot to play action pass principles. That's exactly what he did to start out the game. Quinn ended up damn near setting records for the Big 12 championship just in the first half alone, passing records because he was so prolific. I think he pulled the okie doke on Mike Gundy and their staff after watching Iowa State and watching Texas Tech. They were thinking Texas is going to run the rock against us. And I think Texas doubled down on that. At least Sark did, presented them with power. So they would think Texas is going to run the rock. And Texas pivoted to heavy play action pass. And they got them. I mean, they really did. You could tell that Oklahoma State was taken off guard by Texas throwing the football so much out of those power sets.
Yeah, kind of Belichickian. Belichick always used to do stuff like that, where he'd go into a game thinking like, "Oh, they're going to do this, or we got to look out for this," and then do the exact opposite.
Felt like
you know, I'm falling in love with the 21 like you are too.
Oh, it's awesome.
There's so much they can do to create a really easy play action read for Quinn from those.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so easy to get a running back running free in the flat for an easy completion, or a running back running in the flat and then pulling down a defender that then leaves open, like Jatavian Sanders or Witt on a crosser or whatever, what have you. I'd like to go back and look. If you notice, let me know. I'd like to go back and look how often Quinn had to go past like a 1-read play in order to find an open receiver.
That I would honestly, and that's crazy you brought that up, because I was talking to Bobby on one of the live streams, and he remarked that he thought Quinn got deeper into progressions in this matchup, probably more so than he's seen him in a long time. I'm going to track that and see, because I think he may have done it a lot too that I did not track. Getting back to the 21 personnel, though, they did average, I think, 14 yards per play. 21 personnel in that game, some ridiculous number. And most of it was on that breakaway run. I think it's a 50-something yard run by Keelan Robinson. But I'm with you. I think Quinn, because the power personnel really kind of cleaned up the looks for him, I think Quinn may have had his best game at Texas, period. It might have been his best game as a football player, period. I talked to Jerry Hamilton about it. He said he had a game like that in his high school career, but they didn't win the game. They lost the game. So maybe if you ask Quinn, he'll say it was his best game. I am with you. I think we're starting to see the growth from him, getting deeper into progressions. And then if he can do that, I mean, honestly, that's probably what he's coming back to school for, to prove he can do that and really, pair that up with the footwork and the technique and the throwing motion. Right now, I think we're starting to see Quinn take it to another level, and it might be right in the nick of time.
So I definitely think that was his best game that we've seen him play. But I do think if we look back that we're going to see that he threw to his primary read
a lot of time,
most of the game. But I do want to say this for Quinn. I don't know if there's a better quarterback in the country throwing to the primary read.
I agree with that, man.
and
I agree,
including
brother.
on rollouts too. Like it's like, here's my guy. I just got to get it to him somehow in position to make the most of it. And he'll hit him on the right shoulder, and he'll do it from different angles. It's
I agree
really,
with that.
it's actually kind of what I thought Quinn and Sark would be in year one. And that was just too ambitious. They just weren't going to be there in year one. But they're
I
there.
love what you just said there. No, because I think you're right. I track targets to motion, right? It's just players who are targeted in the passing game prior to the snap, or who are basically they're in motion at the time of the snap or prior to the snap. And in that game, I have him 100% completion percentage, 9 of 9, targeting players to motion. And I haven't figured out, and I'm pretty sure that it's the first, like, start scheming them open. Like, it's a first read, primary window throw. Like it's almost a predetermined read, pretty much. This guy's gonna be open. Just make sure you hit him in stride. And Sark loves that about Quinn's game. Getting back to your point, that if he knows who's getting the football, he can put the ball on the money, perfect placement with the perfect amount of touch, so if he can catch the ball in stride. The whole point of targets to motion, so the guy gets the ball in stride already, and he basically has almost a running start. All right, to be able to get leverage. And getting back to Sark, though, this is how you know Sark's in his bag. One of his conceptual signatures is targets to motion. The games where he has had the most targets to motion, how about this? Both Alabama games.
I want to guess.
Oh, you want to guess them?
Yeah.
Well, I already gave you 2. I gave you 2 already.
So this is for all 3 years? Or 2 years?
This is for the last, I've been tracking it for the last 2 years. Okay. And I have both Bama games. He's got 10 and 9 in those Bama games. That was 9 in the Oklahoma State game. I have
Oklahoma. I bet he had. I bet that's the next one.
Not as many as I thought in the Oklahoma game. I only counted 5 in the Oklahoma game, 5, 6, and 5. So not as many as you think. The other game where he has more targets to motion in any other contest? Kansas game in 2020. 2021 Kansas, which makes sense because he was freaking out about losing to Kansas at home. So I think he went deep into the bag. He went deep. He was like, man, we gotta score some points. So I think he was just going deep into the bag. That's so I think it's a way to tell how excited Sark is about a game plan, how many targets to motion that he has. This is one of my theories.
He had to empty the bag on Kansas.
He did. 2021, dude. He's like, we're gonna lose.
They come back from like a 24-point deficit or something, and then of course they still lost in overtime.
He still lost, but he was in his bag.
Yeah.
No, you're right about that. But there you go. Oklahoma State, to your point though, Sark gives him a lot of predetermined first read throws because Sark knows that's when he's at his best.
I want to know how many he had against Arkansas.
1.
I wonder if it just occurred to me. I was like, I wonder if he tried to dial some up for Card and Card missed him, and he was like, screw this, I'm going to Casey from now on.
And you know what? It might be schematic though, because I'm trying to see this year where Iowa State is. It might be schematic because this year targets to motion only 3 versus Iowa State. And you had 1 versus Iowa State in 2021. It may be like the style of defense they play, that it just basically targets to motion is a moot point. Like, it doesn't give you a schematic advantage. It could be that. Something too. Yeah. Just throwing it out there. Okay. I will say this. I think Quinn, this is the thing about it. If Quinn plays like that again in the college football playoff semifinal, does he come back to school?
Right? I don't know. And he might. They got a month.
He might.
They got a month to put together. They get to get, Rocket the Raccoon building weapons from junk. And like just getting it ready,
Yeah.
Like, what's this one?
I don't know.
Don't touch that, Quinn.
Don't just say it. He hasn't made the announcement yet. So I'm assuming it's still up in the air. Just throwing it out there, man. I hope he has a tough decision to make.
I bet you that's what he's waiting on too. Because if you go like, let's say they got like Michigan in the national championship. Let's say like Michigan like solves Jalen Milroe, which I don't know that that's going to happen, but let's say it did. And then they've beaten Stroud twice. They made Ryan Day kick Kyle McCord out of Columbus. And then they beat Jalen Milroe, right? And then if Quinn goes out and gets them because he's beaten Washington, right? And he just like torches Michigan and wins the national championship.
Yeah.
Then you go pro, right?
Yep. You go.
Because you could get a lot better, but your stock will never be higher.
Yeah. And you know what? What's a great example of that? You remember 2014 when Ohio State makes it because Cordell Jones ends up being the third-string quarterback? And Cordell Jones was not on anybody's draft board. Why would he be? He was a third-string quarterback. He played 3 games, Big Ten title game, semifinal, and the championship game. He ended up being a 4th-round pick from a 3-game evaluation that he balled out in. So if Quinn's considered a 2nd-round pick right now, and he just balled out in the Big 12 title game, and he puts together a really good semifinal and even better championship game, I'm with you, Ian. Dude, go. Cash that lottery ticket, man. Don't wait. Go. All right. Hope we got to worry about that. That'd be a great problem to have. All right. Before we wrap it up, let me get your thoughts about Washington's. I know you already been watching them, and I got a little theory for you, too. I want to see if you agree with it about Washington and Washington's offense and Steve Sarkisian. What are your thoughts about the Washington Huskies in the matchup?
They're kind of scary.
Mm-hmm.
I think Texas is a better overall team, but the thing that Washington does well is like the equivalent of like knockout power in a boxing match.
Love it.
Their passing game. It's like you're going against Tyson. It's like if you would get him into the later rounds, we'll probably be okay, but he might just knock us out, get us an uppercut in round 3.
I like it.
Yeah. And their ability to come back. Ooh, their ability to come back is scary. It's like they have like 3. They have at least 2 NFL receivers. Jalen Polk may make 3.
I think they might have 3.
McMillan is awesome. Rome Odunze is a 1st-round pick. They have a bunch of tight ends too that are good. They move them all over the place. I was watching the Pac-12 championship game a little bit, and they had the tight end at running back, and they were playing all formational games. And I was like, oh, geez.
One of them. They wanted, Kevin DeBoer is sharp, man. What do you think about him as a play caller and a coach? I think he is I think he's one of the most talented coaches in college football right now. I think he really is.
Him, Sark, and Riley to me are like the top
play callers, offensive minds.
Yeah. And then Day is dropping for me with every new Michigan game I watch. And he's still up there, but he's dropping,
Hey, blame Connor Stallions, man. That's Connor Stallions' fault.
Yeah. Sure.
I'll say this. This is my theory real quick before we get out of here. I believe Sark secretly in his heart, he is jealous of that Washington offense. It's probably as closest thing you can get to a Don Coryell offense. We know Sark loves the deep ball, wants to throw the deep ball. Hell, as a matter of fact, early on in his tenure here at Texas, he was telling folks, even though they weren't good at completing the deep ball and they weren't effective at converting it, they were still gonna throw it. He was that stubborn about it. Remember, he kept saying it's a huge part of our offense because I think he believes in its ability to inflict psychological damage on defenses. But I think now, being a wiser coach and evolving as a coach, he's realized that and accepted the fact they're not great at the deep ball. It's not a strength of Quinn. And actually, it's doing more self-harm. It's doing more damage to our team, getting us behind the chains when we throw them on 1st down and we fail to convert, than it is inflicting psychological damage on the defense. So he's curtailed his frivolous deep shots down the field. But when he watches Washington, they chunk it. I think he's a little jealous of that. He wants that in his offense.
I think part of that is that they get teams just bail their safeties against Texas. And I think that's a big reason why, like, Brooks had 1,000 yards. It was like, what are they going to do without Brooks? Oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
because teams are just so afraid of Mitchell and Worthy.
Yeah.
I think once they hit that deep shot to Worthy in the Alabama game in Tuscaloosa,
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of like, well, shoot.
They're still living off of it, though. They love it. I love it.
Well, why is it that Washington's able to do it so much?
The receivers. Penix has a great arm. He can make the throws, and the receivers, they fight for the balls. Oh, Dunze is the best 50-50 receiver. He's the best contested catch receiver in college football. Not even close. So I think that's a bit. And honestly, I would just say how aggressive they are with it. They just keep chunking it. They keep they've thrown 120 plus yard passes so far this year. Quinn's thrown 39. So I think the sheer volume of it kind of overwhelms teams. And then the odds are in their favor. They are completing 44% of their passes downfield. Texas is giving up around 36%. If you take away the backup quarterbacks Texas played, they're giving up around 42%. And that's what I'm worried about a little bit, is that they're going not against this is the best quarterback they played with the best group of wide receivers and the most sophisticated passing game. And Texas right now is giving up around 42% of deep balls to starting quarterbacks. And it's the best one they've seen. That worries me just a little bit. Only thing that worries me, actually.
So they're going to be working cloud for a month?
They better figure it out. They better figure it out, Ian. I don't know what their plan is. But last year, as you pointed out, they did a decent job last year. They did a decent job.
I need to see what they played last. Well, last year it seemed like they matched up. They ended up doing pretty well against the receivers in the matchups.
They did. Yeah, you're right.
So
but they ran the ball against them, and they can't run the ball this year, though. We know that. Ain't gonna be no running the ball this year. They got to throw it to win.
If they just do their thing and they play up tight and they stick with it, even if they hit a deep bomb to Dunze, maybe it'll just even out. If maybe they can be like, we don't think you can beat us for 4 quarters to run bombs. We think even if you hit a couple, it's going to even out, and then we'll have you.
I like that. Because
it's a risky way to play it, but that
it is a risky way. But I agree with you, because it's a low percentage throw. It's supposed to be. It just isn't for Washington. It's like Dame Lillard. It's like, that's a bad shot. Well, for everybody except Dame Lillard, it's a bad shot. And that's kind of Washington. So your theory, it actually does make sense. I just pray they're not having a good day. That's what we got to pray.
The 2014 Alamo Bowl was like that, where Michigan State had these big old safeties, and they've been playing press quarters all day, every day against everybody. And they played Baylor. And they're like, you're not going to run the ball. And we don't really think you can land shots on us all day in press quarters. If you want to try, you can try. We don't believe you can do it. And Baylor threw for like 500 or 600 yards.
Exactly.
Yeah. Won like 42-41. And after the game, Pat Narduzzi came down and gave D'Antonio a hug. And they looked like somebody had just come out to 2 little brothers and been like, your daddy's going to make it.
Oh, it was really seriously. Oh, that's great. That's a great way to end it. I love that. Nice little anecdote there, brother. All right. We'll be back next week, and we'll be talking tons of Texas versus Washington. I got lots of notes. I'm going to go back and watch some more film. So is my man Ian. So we'll have the game plan ready for you of how Texas can pull off the win over Washington. Ian, thanks for the time as always, brother. It was awesome.
You bet. Looking forward to this next few.
No doubt. All right, folks, hopefully y'all will join us as well. And we'll be talking Texas football and everything in between. For my man Ian and for myself, until next time, hook 'em.